Hey, what's up, guys? Good morning, morning, morning. Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, welcome. Another Saturday live unboxing, get together, chit chat, hang out, talk about this, that, and the other thing, especially if it's related to our hobby or what we love talking about, doing. My PC's doing a update. Guess I should have realized it would do it this week, but that doesn't make any sense because Patch Tuesday is normally the second Tuesday of the month, right? This is only the fourth. 3, 2, 1. The first was Wednesday. Why the hell is my computer going through an update today? Doesn't make any sense. Now, you guys let me know when it makes sense. What have I been doing for my homework? I did not see a movie this week. Still haven't got around to watching Zack Snyder's Suicide Squad, so I'm behind on that. Working on updates 100% complete. Do not turn off your computer. Yeah, don't be caught in that Windows 10 punishment window or cycle by turning off your computer before it's done doing what it's supposed to do. Unlike the older iterations of Windows, all the way up to Windows 7, essentially, if you didn't want to wait for it to do what it's doing, you could override this process, turn your computer off. It would go back and say it wasn't shut down or didn't start properly. Do you want to do a repair option? You could just say no and then go on and deal with whatever problem you may or may not have encountered or caused. You don't do that with Windows 10. Windows 10 will punish you if you decide you want to try to bypass what it is that it is doing. So until it's done doing what it's doing, I don't have any chat over here. So give me a few minutes and it will be here. I've got a brand spanking new computer in the other room's been there for over a week now. They haven't even taken out of the box. I've got a lot that needs to be done. Just haven't taken the time to do it. As you guys and gals know who have followed me for quite some time, got a few things in this week. Big boxes. Nothing I got really came in a small box this week. And of course, I'm thinking, where the hell am I going to put all this? I need to redo the room here. And I'm trying to decide how much to move into the living room, how much to move into the computer room, how much to keep into here, how much to get rid of altogether. And, that's the fun or the not so much fun of it also. So, um, two of these pieces would essentially be considered a centerpiece in a collection. Uh, I have a few centerpieces, more or less. And what I mean a centerpiece is a piece that's larger than just one or two figures together. For instance, my land speeder, that's a centerpiece collection. That would really take up, the most acreage or square foot print in your collection room, and so it becomes the center piece. Hulkbuster's another one. The Iron Man workshop um, Mark 42 prehensile test outfit. The Hall of Armor, any one of those Hall of Armors that I have, uh, would all be considered easily a centerpiece. This Green Goblin on his glider is a nice big piece as well. So anything that takes up a lot of real estate is would be considered a centerpiece, and that's what I got today. This week was more centerpieces. So start with this one. I think I know what it is. I used to keep excellent records on everything that was coming and going. Kind of stopped doing that. I need to get back into that. Practice. Working on updates. 100% complete. Do not turn off your computer. Bill Gates is watching you. I I bought Spider-Man tickets, by the way. It was funny. They went on sale on Monday. By the time I got around to purchasing my tickets online, which was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe 5 o'clock in the afternoon, at the theater I'd like to go to, the first 5 shows were sold out in that few short hours. So that tells you the anticipation of this film, how excited everyone is about it. I've been watching a series called Cowboy Bebop. I really enjoy that. Been watching a series called Umbrella Academy. Kind of getting a little over that. I'm in season 2, and it's starting to really disappoint me. I didn't see any other movies. I think I want to go see King Richard, which is a story of Venus and the Williams sisters. What's her sister's name? Will Smith plays their dad, who taught them how to become tennis champions. I also want to go see Clifford the Big Red Dog. It looks absolutely stupid, but every now and again you have to go out there and just see an absolutely stupid, ridiculously fun movie. So that's what I'm planning on doing with that. This is not what I thought it was going to be. Thought I had another figure coming, but this definitely works. Very happy about this. So that makes me wonder, what's in this figure? Well, I know what's in this now that I look at it. Let's get this opened up. Some of you may know I buy figures from both Sideshow, Big Bad Toy Store, 1/6 Kit, 1/6 Outfitter, Giant Toys. Who else? Alter Ego Comics. Just whomever has the figure on good price. Oh, so speaking of, there's a new Venom out. New Spider-Man came out last week. I mean out. I mean like up for pre-order. What was it else that I bought this week? There's a couple of new figures that came out that I purchased. I just don't remember what they were now. So anyhow, Sideshow, who's the North American distributor for Hot Toys, anything I order from them, I get it from everyone else first. Literally. Whomever it is that I buy it from comes months before it finally comes to me from Sideshow. So, and I live in the same state as Sideshow. Sideshow's always just put me on their shit list. Yeah, what can you say? So this came from Big Bad Toy Store. Although I ordered one from Sideshow. Pretty interesting, huh? So Miles came about as part of the culture of that was happening and has gone full on rampant now of having to replace heroes with politically correct people. And thankfully they at least did the story properly. It didn't just all of a sudden redo Peter Parker as a new story, more or less. They just made an addition to Peter Parker. And I think it was a successful, good way of doing it. Same thing they're doing with Superman's son. How he's still kind of Superman, but he's not Clark Kent, or even Clark Kent as he should be, and is making his son, which I forget his name now, with the alternate lifestyle. And so if you're going to do that with with a mainline character, you need to leave your mainline character alone. And it's not the first time that they've did a different alternate Spider-Man. Back in the 90s when the 2099 series line was coming out around, gosh, geez, when was that? 95, I think. They came up with Miguel O'Hara, which was Spider-Man in the year 2099. So kind of like the complaint with James Bond, where they've have this woman being the 007 agent, and they explained that James retired, so they continued his number assignment on to the next agent. And so it didn't necessarily replace James Bond. They weren't saying this is James Bond and this is who James Bond has been from time immortal. They're saying James is retired, his number carried on. If you wanted to continue the stories of 007, it's going to be with this particular individual. So in these instances, Miles was built by a genetically enhanced or modified spider, which gave him the abilities of a Spider-Man. And that's where we come about with Miles Morales. So he's different than Spider-Man. And it's also, again, it's not like they're disrespecting the Spider-Man line, because we had the same thing with Spider-Gwen, where in her reality, she was the one that survived, and Peter Parker was the one that died. So, for instance, in this MCU Sony mashup of the current Tom Holland Spider-Man, they decided to give us MJ, Michelle Johnson, instead of MJ, Mary Jane. And I had a hard time with them calling her MJ. He could have been dating Michelle Johnson, and that would have been perfectly fine. He dated Betty Bryant. He had a thing with Felicia. He dated oh God, what was her name? The popular girl in school. He didn't really date her, but there was like this little thing going on there. Of course, he was involved with Felicia Hardy, the police chief's daughter, and she died, which he kind of blamed himself, which helped evolve him into the Spider-Man that he became. Not only was the death of his uncle Ben Parker, but also when Gwen Stacy died, that helped evolve him into his motto of "with great power comes great responsibility." So in the alternate universe, Gwen lived, and she was the one that got bit by a spider. So there could be any number of Spider-Men or Spider people. Just leave your mainline characters alone. So this is how Miles Morales came about. And I'm pleased with the Miles Morales character. I have no problem with the Miles Morales character, because he is not a replacement for Spider-Man, but just an alternate story of somebody who was bit by a radioactive spider. So, since I've got one coming from Sideshow, it'll probably be here in February. Ordered multiples of these because there's many ways of displaying Miles. I like how they show on the back here some of his different ways of doing that. It's nice to be reminded of what it was that you were purchasing, or why you purchased this figure in the first place. Some of it reminds me of the Andrew Garfield get up with this, and that's fine. I really am under the impression that we'll see Andrew and Toby in this next Spider-Man movie. That's going to be cool. It'll be a really nice verification or validation, I guess I would say better. A validation of the entire Spider-Man storylines. Because, as you know, both Toby and Andrew are not your mainline Spider-Man. The main Marvel universe is Earth 616. And so as long as the mainline characters follow their mainline destiny, or what their creator created them as, I'm fine with that. When they start changing the main characters original idea or the creator's original idea on things. For instance, Star Wars 7, 8, and 9, who decided to just take everything George Lucas said and throw it right out the window. I have a problem. The MCU is Earth 199999. So that's just an example of how many Earths there are, how many different Spider-Men there actually could be. And we get another good taste of that in the animated feature Enter the Spider-Verse. So in the MCU, in the Spider-Man, which one was it? Homecoming, I think. He met the Prowler, and he made a comment to him about his nephew Miles, and so it'll be interesting to see if they decide to throw Miles in on this too. I've not heard anything about a Miles character coming in to this new Spider-Man movie. If you watch the last Venom movie, he was brought into this reality that Tom Holland resides in, the um, the latest iteration of Venom. So it'll be interesting to see who all they actually combine into this and how that's going to come about. It'd be nice to just make it one big fluid explanation, more or less. Here's Tobey Maguire from Earth, whatever the hell number his Earth is, I don't know, 79. Here's Andrew Garfield from his Earth, whatever the hell version of Earth his is, 7,432. Here's Venom of the latest Venom storylines from Earth, whatever the hell it is, 556. And here's Tom Holland residing in Earth 199999. 199999. Almost 20,000. 19,999. No, 199999. So there's five nines. 2, 3, yeah, 20,000. 19,999. So this isn't the first Miles that we've gotten. Got the other Miles is Miles before. Did we already get this figure? Can't even keep track anymore, guys. I'm so far behind on this. We did. So the other one was my Sideshow, and this is my Big Bad Toy Store one. So Sideshow must have done you good. Still don't take back anything that I said. So that's who we have here today. Let's put him into a different outfit. Working on updates, 100% complete. Do not turn off your computer. Oh. Looks like maybe on a sign-on screen. Come on, be good to me. Ooh. Oh, come on. Signing on. Hopefully within the next 30 minutes I'll be able to read your chat. Hopefully you guys have been saying hi to me. Hopefully there's more than just me in this room. For those of you that have been with us for a long time, you know that Spider-Man is my guy. That's my superhero, the one that I relate to the most. And Miles, similar story, you know, non-mutant superhero, which was important during the in the comics when they came up with the Mutant Registration Act. Um, Spider-Man being not a mutant wasn't required to turn himself in, more or less. And they did a similar storyline in the MCU with the Sokovia Accords, where they required all the superheroes to turn themselves in, and of course Iron Man fought against that. Tony Stark fought against that. You know, you're not going to. He is Iron Man. And he's not for sale, more or less. But if I remember correctly, during the Mutant Registration Act, Peter still turned himself in, still decided to register himself. You know, it's very interesting when you look through history and such, and comics, how they portray life, and you're reminded of these things that have gone through history, and makes you wonder how we get to these positions. It's like a frog that, you know, they claim you can throw a frog into a pot and then just turn the water on and let him boil alive in there. Because the heat comes on so slowly, the frog won't jump out of the pot. That's the story. You can boil a frog alive. They won't know that they're being killed. They won't know that the heat's been turned up on them because it just happens so gradually. Same thing happens in reality. Now governments topple and new regimes take over. What was that in Star Trek? The first thought curbed, the first speech censored. Um, it was in the episode called Drumhead, where this admiral or captain or somebody was on the ship trying to find traitors, and pretty powerful episode. All right, waiting on Google to open up. For instance, most recently, Senator Ted Cruz told Facebook that your hurt feelings don't override my right to free speech. He says, founding fathers were very well aware of what the human nature was, of how horrible humans are to each other, and how people have opinions that don't always agree with what everyone else thinks or what even makes any sense. But they were very clear to make sure that everyone understood that the very most important right which we are given by our Creator, however it is that you believe that you came about, is the right to free speech, to say whatever you want. Your hurt feelings don't override my free speech. You don't have to agree with what's being said. But when you take away their right to speak their mind, who's going to defend your right to speak your mind? That's when problems arise. So where's the little piece that there it is. All right, Google's open. So I'm just not a fan of this articulated posing rod system they've been using for the last couple of years. It certainly isn't going to hold a die-cast Iron Man figure in a flight pose. That's a fact. For your lighter pieces like this Miles, yeah, it'll hold it, but still just not a fan of it, truthfully. Get your typical pack of webbing that we've been getting with all the Spider-Man figures for at least 10 years. You get your cap and scarf and leggings, as you can see here. See if we can get in here and catch up with you guys. See if you've said anything to me this morning. See if there's any of you even tuned in. I need to just spend like a week redoing this entire house. I really do. All right, here we go. Hey, here comes chat. Hope you guys have been not too hard on me. Skip the ads. All right. Toy Mafia, good morning. How are you doing? Jake, how's it going? Good morning, good morning, good morning. So, by the way, I was looking at this upcoming Saturdays. And the 25th, which is Christmas, celebrated in Western cultures, is Saturday. So, wasn't sure what to do on that week. I didn't want to necessarily schedule a 7 a.m. because that's what it is here in California, Christmas show. And for a lot of people who celebrate Christmas, it's an entire day process. It's just an entire day of, waking up, spending time opening presents under the tree, socializing with your family, having a good meal, maybe watching something on TV. So I decided I'm not going to do that Saturday. I've put in there to do Sunday the 26th, so I'd be interested to know what you guys think about that. Should we do a Sunday the 26th show? Or should we just cancel that weekend altogether so that everyone can just enjoy their Christmas and not have to think that they need to be here for me. Should we schedule it for later Saturday night, maybe? Because I don't want to get to the point where it's so late that it starts cutting into people's Monday mornings, which is the problem. Because we are a worldwide family here. People all over the world watch this show with us. And so I'm just curious what to do about Christmas. So I scheduled it currently for Sunday the 26th at 7 a.m. But if you guys have better thoughts or something along that line, let me know what your opinions are. CBS Sci-Fi. It is that time again. Dagarancis. I am doing well. Thank you. Thank you very much. Last week I spent a lot of time actually going to the site and fixing computers on site. I've worked at home remotely since 2016. So way before COVID, I was already transitioning to home. I'm a systems administrator, and most things can be fixed remotely. But whenever a computer crashes or hard drive crashes or something along that line, a little difficult to actually do that remotely. You can't log into the computer, you can't repair it, right? So all last week and some of the beginning of this week was spent actually on site. So it kept me very busy. Oh, Tifa looked great. Thank you for sending those, Dagarancis. My goodness. You did a good custom on that. Really nice job. Willie, how's it going? Good morning to you. Did I get a chance to watch Hawkeye? No. Is that out now? I think we talked about that last week. Is it out now? Is it actually out now? Oh, gosh. I've got another show to start watching then. I started watching the Blade Runner Black Orchid. I got through the first episode on that, and I need to catch up on those. And I definitely will be watching Hawkeye. I love Hawkeye. Jeremy Renner is actually from here where I live. And so he's like a local. He doesn't live here anymore, but his family still is in the area. He's a good guy. He's a good guy. If it is on Sunday, then I will be here on that Sunday. Woohoo! Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you guys may just want a weekend off. Enjoy your time with, your cocoa, your maybe a fireplace burning, maybe some family that you have that you can reach out to, and just enjoy that. We could talk about what you got on Saturday, on Sunday, or just hold off to the next Saturday at all, and that way we're not interrupting anything of your Sunday rituals. Maybe a lot of you have Sunday brunch that you enjoy doing with family or friends, or maybe you go to a religious service on Sunday. So I'm not sure. A lot went into deciding to do it on Saturday in the first place. YouTube tells you when your people are watching your shows. And after viewing that, a couple of things came up. A couple of days and times came up. And Saturday wasn't necessarily my most popular date and time. I think it was a Wednesday or a Thursday actually was probably the absolute most popular date and time when you all were tuning in to watch my videos. But I decided against a Wednesday or a Thursday, and went with Saturdays. I don't know whether or not it was probably the best decision, but it seems to be what's worked for us, right? So that's where we stay. We get what I call the Todd McFarlane webbing. And the reason I call it this was because until Todd McFarlane started drawing Spider-Man, the web was just considered a tool. It was just something they had. He would squirt it out, and it would be there, and it would dissolve within 4 hours, and that was the extent of it. Well, Todd went in there and started making this gobs and gobs of webbing just everywhere, and you'd see it bunched up in his hand as he's trying to swing through the city. And so when they came out with this a handful of years ago, I've just always called it the Todd McFarlane webbing ever since, because it just reminds me of the webbing that Todd McFarlane pretty much made famous. He gave the webbing its own identity, if you will. We got the earmuffs, as you can see there. What I might do is put a backpack on him, because he comes with a backpack and a cat. I don't understand the cat. I've not read any of the Miles Morales comics. I gotta tell you I have, because I have not. So I don't know, does he have a cat? And I don't know why the cat has this mask on. Maybe it's from the PlayStation game. Maybe he's got a cat in that. But here's his little cat. I really am considering pulling the trigger on a console. Last console I had was the Xbox 360. And I really was thinking about getting the PlayStation with Spider-Man, of course, for me first. But I really don't have the time to play these things. And but my wife, born and raised in New York City, well, Long Island, I thought that she might enjoy swinging through or exploring Manhattan. And she watched many of the videos that you guys had made of you playing Spider-Man on the PlayStation. She really was impressed with how detailed and true to life it really was. But she hated me spending money. So it was easy for her to say not to get it, so I never did. But I'm sure thinking about getting it. My goodness. We get the webbing splat. Of course, this has been around for many years in the Spider-Man collectible pieces. Get a couple wrist pegs. You can never have too many wrist pegs, I'll tell you that much. They put the interchangeable eyes not in their own case, which I hate. But you have 3 interchangeable eyes from the standard, probably the largest opening eye, all the way down to this narrow slit. So there's 3 sets of interchangeable eyes in between this narrow slit and that. And they didn't put them into just this piece snaps into this case, which I hate. We get a backpack, which this new generation loves backpacks. We wouldn't be caught dead with the backpack when I was growing up. It didn't matter how many books you had. You carried them all under one arm. So your arm went numb, lost all circulation and blood flow through it. You still only carried all your books under one arm. 20 books, didn't matter. We were cool back then. Tough guys. So this is the backpack. I remember in the pictures provided by Hot Toys, they had him wearing it in the front or in the back. I can't see putting this on the front. I'm sorry. If I'm going to make Spidey uncool enough to wear a backpack, I'm not putting it on his tummy. That's not going to happen. So if you're going to put the cat in it, there's an interchangeable piece that goes here. You just pull this front piece off and place this on here. And they did a really good job with that. I like the design of that. That was pretty well thought out. And I think they did a good job figuring out to do it in that manner. You just simply unplug it. And then put the new front on there, which looks like as if it's just flopped open. Now, another thing we can do with this is we can put in there perhaps his scarf and his hat. Maybe even put a physics book in here, a science book. Got science books provided by some of the other Spider-Men, right? Maybe shove a science book in here as well. Spidey would take his clothes off because he always wore his Spider-Man suit under his clothes. Well, not always. Sometimes he was caught off guard. But he would take his clothes off and then web them up someplace in some back alley somewhere. A piece of foam they put in there. And then he knew, because his webbing would last for 4 hours, that he had 4 hours to go back and get his clothes. And that's how Spider-Man would change out of his clothes into his costume. Now, the way they would explain Superman, how he would do it, was evidently in his cape. Don't think too hard on this. He was able to put all the clothes that he had inside a pocket in his cape. I know. Most time we saw him wearing a coat and tie and the whole 9 yards. Somehow that would fold up very neatly into his cape. And that was the story to how Superman would handle his civilian attire with his suit on underneath. So with the foam in there, the cat really sits quite well. If you're going to shove something else in there besides the cat, or in addition to the cat, you definitely want to remove that foam. But if you're just going to use the cat in there, just leave the foam in there. If I remember correctly, this unsnaps from the bottom here. Just like that, to get over his body. It's pretty neat. You don't have to worry about stretching and stressing the figure in order to put the backpack on him. Just going to slide it over his arm here and then wrap it around this other one and snap it in place. And of course, the bad thing now is we don't see the back. You know, and that's the worst part about displaying figures. On my Hawkeye from Age of Ultron, where I bought a double pack of arrows and just totally filled his quiver with arrows, which was the big joke from Age of Ultron of how he went into the Battle of New York with like 6 arrows. Anyhow, I totally filled his backpack up with arrows, and how I have him displayed with the other Avengers on the Toys box base, which would have been where in Sokovia they had their showdown with Ultron and all of the Sentinels. I've got Hawkeye turned around backwards with his arrow and bow drawn, and you can see then the back of him. So there's creative ways of putting that together so to be able to see the back of the figures. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I really don't know where I'm going to be storing all these figures. I keep going back and forth, telling myself to put the Detolfs in the living room and just move the collection in there. I really don't. I haven't put much thought to anything, truthfully. Um, those of you that have been part of the family for a while know that my wife passed away in March, and sometimes I just am not motivated much to do much of anything, truthfully. Depression's a bitch, and I'm talking about real depression. I'm not talking about some of this depression that people are experiencing because their entire life they've been validated and been told how important they are. And here's your little participation trophy the size of a freaking Stanley Cup for playing soccer, even though you sat on the bench the entire time and your team never won a single game. And then as soon as you don't get that validation anymore, you slip into depression until somebody tells you how wonderful and good you are. I mean, I'm suffering from real, honest to goodness depression, and it sucks. So, I don't recommend depression for anybody, I'll tell you that much. I don't recommend it for anyone. I don't know what I'm going to do with this Spidey. He definitely needs a home, and he definitely needs to go into a Detolf, and I definitely need to get around to doing all of that. But what I'm going to open up next is something that I've wanted for a while, but was reluctant to purchase it. And after seeing some reviews on it, it didn't improve my opinion of it. But I decided to pull the trigger on it, and I'm hoping that I'm not disappointed. I'm truly hoping that this is a redeeming piece for this manufacturer. I'm really hoping it's a redeeming piece, and I really don't have the room to do it here. Probably ought to go into the living room to do this, because it goes along with my story of talking about centerpiece figures. Which explains the rant that you're probably going, why the hell is he going on about this? Because I got a centerpiece figure, and I don't know what the hell I want to do with it. Oh, my goodness. It's about to get real in here. I also have been bouncing around the idea of lightening the load, thinning out the herd, getting rid of some of these pieces. I surely don't want to, but it might be a reality of it. I thought this would be heavier than it is. Don't know if you guys know what this is by looking at the box. But it's that big. that big. Damon Zapp, how's it going, man? Oh my goodness, I'm sorry, I don't read Greek, so I'm going to butcher your name, and maybe it's not Greek at all. Um, Borhaka Anexesa, welcome to the channel. Good having you. I like this Miles, but I think I want the Spider-Verse version to go with Gwen over this one. Yeah. Robert, just a fan, how's it going? Happy Saturday. Carrie guy, good morning. Internet went down. That's an impressive collection of figures. Thank you. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the family. I can press 2, but then I think I have arms, legs, a roof over my head, a home, food, and place to live. And although I despise politics, I'm happy I live in a place in a world that isn't being bombed. And that's what we have to tell ourselves. Sometimes when I complain, I surmise it up or end it with first world problems. You know, gosh, I've got heat, got air conditioning, got internet. I can go to the grocery store and buy pretty much anything I want. I can get gasoline in my car. I can get a car, and I don't have to worry about being bombed. But things used to be better in this country. I'll say that. So, yeah, we have it good in comparison to other places in the world, but we used to have it better. And there's no reason for it to go bad because we're not being bombed. You know what I'm saying? We're not involved in a hand-to-hand land combat war. You know what I mean? There's no reason why, in the time of peace that we really are in, that we would be in this situation. So that's why I complain. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's first world problems, but it used to be better. And you always will think back that. You'll always think, well, gosh, politicians were noble. We had it better back then. And you'll always think that the older times are better. But I'm telling you for fact, we used to have it better. That's a fact. Thank you, Carrie guy, and I hope I'm saying your name right. Yes, and again, look at my collection. That's why I share it with you guys. I don't make a penny per se worth a penny off of doing these videos. I really don't. As you know, most of these figures on the average are $300 a piece. When you take into consideration the $1,000 figures and the $200 figures, and you add them all up, you end up with about approximately $300 a figure. If I'm opening up one figure a week, that's $1,200 a month of figures. I don't even make $100 a month from YouTube. So don't think for 1 second that I'm in this for the money, or that YouTube is buying my figures. Big Bad Toy Store, Sideshow, Alter Egos, Toys Wonderland, 1/6 Kit, 1/6 Outfitters. Nobody sends me figures for free. I don't get these sent to me, and like some of the reviewers that don't pay a penny for their figures. I literally am doing this because I have the opportunity to purchase these and share them with you. And it's not a braggadocious thing. I'm not here bragging about, oh, look at me, look at everything I have. So I hope you never feel that at all, ever. Because I work hard for these toys, these collectibles, this hobby, and I just enjoy sharing it with you guys. So I appreciate those of you who throw a dollar or two my way. Thank you for that. That's just like tipping your waiter or your waitress or your maitre d' or your valet or your concierge or anyone that does something for you. It's just letting me know that you guys appreciate what I'm doing. But again, $1, $2 isn't paying for a $300 figure. It's not happening. It's just letting me know that you guys really appreciate what I'm doing. So I used to spend hours making videos. I would unbox these figures and it would take maybe 20, 30 hours to do the entire process of post-production, of editing and uploading and going through this whole process of putting a video on there just to get 16 cents off of a video. And I was like, what's the point? What's the absolute point? So I don't go through all of that anymore and just transitioned over into these Saturday live feeds. And you guys are for the most part familiar with most of the figures as it is by the time it gets to us. And it's just a nice way for us to socialize, talk about what's going on. We don't talk about just our figures. We talk about the movies and the comics and sometimes we get a little political in here and whatever else, because it is world. It's what we would do if you were coming over to my house, sitting on my couch, enjoying a beverage, and just shooting the shit, or going out in the garage, working on the cars, or getting out in the yard and talking about the lawn. It's just us getting together and hanging out and talking about our stuff. And what kind of binds us, in my opinion, are the figures and such. I've got well over 200 figures here. Well over. Probably closer to 300 at this point. I really need to do a count again. And when you start adding that up, you come to a conclusion real quick of what this hobby can cost you. So please don't ever get involved in this hobby, those of you who are new to it, thinking you're going to make money on these figures. Yeah, granted, there have been times when you had bought a figure for $200 and a few months or even years later, it may turn into an $800 or $1,000 figure, but that is so rare. It's not even funny. I mean, just right now, we've had the Black Friday sales where they're selling brand new figures that I would have bought on day one and paid full price on. That's now selling for 25% off, 50% off. So where am I making the money on that? Not. I can't now then turn around and sell that figure for not only the asking price of it off of Sideshow, for instance, of let's say $250 plus tax plus shipping, turns it into a $300 figure. When you can go right onto the Sideshow site and buy it right now for under $200, $175, and I've paid $300 for it. So no, this, we call them a collectible, but please don't ever think that you're going to make any money on any of this. If you do, God bless you. You made out. You did good. All right. Collect these because you want them. Collect them because you want to enjoy them. Collect them because when you look at them, you're reminded of something, maybe a pleasant memory from a movie or a video game or a comic that you've read. And enjoy that memory that washes through you as you gaze on your figure. And that's why we collect these. And especially with 1/6 scale. There's so much real estate involved. I mean, look at this. We're talking about this guy has now consumed literally, more or less, 25 inches, 2 feet of real estate, plus 12 inches. So, but the advantage is the detail. I mean, when you have a good head sculpt, when you have an artist that makes a head sculpt that looks bang on, just like the actor or actress, it's a treat. It's like if you ever been to a wax museum and you see these actors and actresses and famous people that have been recreated there, you get that kind of detail, and that's what you get for the 1/6 scale size. We don't have as many figures available to us, for instance, as in the action figure size, which is can easily be considered 1/12 size, but really, gosh, they've got them all the way down to 4.5 inches. So with those, you can build armies because you can get figures for under $30 all day long, and they take up less real estate. So this 1/6 hobby is a very specific hobby, and it's something that can be really enjoyed and fun, and it expands a lot of realms. It more or less, for the most part, was made famous. Barbie is for kind of a 1/6 scale, and the old G.I. Joe military figures are 1/6 scale. So that's really what started. Hot Toys even started. The original Hot Toys started were military figures. They were making soldiers. So That's what this hobby originated from, was that. So when you decide to get into this, you're not making money. None of this is ever going to be making any money for me at all. You know, um, I just enjoy the figures, and I enjoy sharing them with you because I have an opportunity to purchase these figures, and so I do. And that's also why you don't see a lot of DC or X-Men or some of the other Star Wars franchises, because just with the Marvel, it fills up an entire room. Star Wars would do the exact same thing. DC would do the exact same thing. So there's so many different figures in these franchises that you really have to also kind of keep in track of what it is that you're collecting. Collect what you love. There's collectors like me that full on go into a Marvel. There's collectors that just get the pieces that represent what they specifically like. They will only have one Spider-Man, one Superman, one Batman, you know, one Wolverine, one Stormtrooper, and they're perfectly fine with that. That tells their story. And you really want to collect what you love. Don't just start snatching up 1/6 scale figures if you don't have an attachment to it. There have been a couple of them that I did that to, and it just wasn't there. There was nothing there, and then you're stuck with a figure trying to figure out what to do with it. Why do I even have this? Do I need to sell it, etc., etc.? And it just makes it for a real unfun experience in the hobby. We could lose it all in a snap, and that was really really interesting. Uh, the whole Infinity War thing, lost it all in a snap. Really interesting. Precious Horde, suffering from it myself. I understand. I'm glad to have this stream to watch every week. Thank you, Dagger Answers. And that was my wife's opinion too. She was really a wonderful person, and I, I can't truthfully say she ever necessarily supported my hobby, but she didn't give me shit over it, and she enjoyed seeing the figures that I would open up, and I'd bring them to her and show her to them, and she would play with them. And she had some of the Fisons that she collected herself, and um, but she wasn't into it like I was, and under any circumstance. And so when she had her cardiac arrest in 2019, when she started being able to be what's the word I'm looking for? Cognizant, maybe. I was able to start processing everything that happened and what's going on and where she is. And she asked about you guys. And it gave her a sense of comfort to know that you guys were here as a sounding board. So, we have each other, and I'm very appreciative of you. And I hope that you get the same type of a satisfaction or comfort in knowing that we're here to discuss things. We're all there. It's pronounced Craigie. Craigie Giggles. All right. Craigie. I have so much respect for you, Siri. Thank you, Damon. Thank you very much. In your opinion, Fison body wise, which is the best body to use for a nice average size, normal human body, male and female. They have the normal size now. Fison does. I put her on my Velma. She has normal size feet, normal size proportions. That one is the 42 and 43. Those were what are considered the realistic proportions. And then for the plus size realistic proportions, you have 38 and 39. So all of those are large breast proportions. And then there is the 34 and 35, which are the medium breast proportions, which are all considered realistic body proportions. Um, the big feets come on the 38, 39, 42, and 43s. And so your foot, if you've ever gone through any type of drawing or sculpting class, you'll know that your foot is the length of your forearm here. And most of these characters, their foot is not the length of their forearm because there becomes a sense of aesthetic that when you look at something that you want to see a smaller foot. When you start putting this long foot on here, it ends up just looking wrong. So you'll find a lot of figures that will have a smaller foot. So on those 38, 39, 42, and 43, right? Was that what it was? 38, 39, 42, and 43. The feet are proportionately sized. So the PLLB 2020 S38 is pale skin, large breasts, interchangeable feet. The 39 is suntan, large breast, interchangeable feet. The 42 is pale, large breast, seamless feet. And the 43 is suntan, large breasts, seamless feet. And then if you were to go with the 34 and 35, the 34 is a pale, medium breast, seamless. And the 35 is a suntan, medium breast, seamless. So those are the ones you want to look up. Check those out. That's what I recommend if you're looking for a realistic proportioned Fison body. Do I have a favorite figure? You know, it's funny. I have probably 5. And just off the top of my head, these are the figures that come to my mind pretty quickly. I wouldn't say one is more so over than the other, but easily the Mark 7 / Mark 21, specifically the Mark 21 diecast. So the Mark 21, so when they were making the Iron Man 3 and they had to come up with 42 total suits. So we'd already had the first 7 that were done up through Avengers. And then Iron Man 3 came out, which happened after Avengers, and we went from 7 to 42, and including a new War Machine figure suit. So they had to make 8, 9, 10, etc., 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 all the way up to 42. And they started getting really lazy in the creation of these through the computer programs. And they were just literally just popping off one and popping on another, and boom, off they go. It still wasn't even at that point something that was in their mind of them thinking, you know, people are really going to start paying attention to this and start asking questions about such and such and so on and so forth. And that's why there's so much question in some of these figures as to what or even how. So with that laziness came the Mark 21. It literally is a Mark 7 just gold painted, and it was considered a high altitude suit because if you remember in Iron Man 1, when he was flying his Mark 2, testing it for high altitude and it iced up, he found the way to defeat the ice was with the gold on the suit. And when he painted like that on his program, I think he made a comment. I don't remember exactly what it was about it being ostentatious or and of course Jarvis responded, "Yeah, that would never be you." And he's like, "Throw a little hot rod red on there, call it done." And that's how the red and gold suits came about. So they made the Mark 21 where literally it just is gold. And it's the exact same thing as the Mark 7. And the Mark 7 is one of the absolute most beautiful suits. So when you take a Mark 7 and then you make it gold, my goodness. So there have been three versions, if I remember correctly, of the Mark 21. The original one was plastic, and it's about five different shades of gold on it. Looks really nice. Then they came out with the chrome version, which was in honor of the Shanghai Disney and the Hot Toys stores that were opening up there, and a really good looking figure. And then when they came out with the diecast Mark 7, they also made a diecast Mark 21. And it's it's not as beautiful as the plastic chrome, but it's beautiful in its own sense. So the Mark 21, the Mark 5 diecast would be another favorite piece. It is so articulated, so detailed. It's remarkable. It's designed to be the suit that he wore in Monaco in Iron Man 2, where he had it was called the football or the suitcase that was carried around by Happy so that he could put a suit on at a given moment. It doesn't necessarily have the flight capability that all the other suits had. It was more or less an emergency suit that you could put on instantly. He would open up the case and then put it on, and the suit would dawn on him. And the diecast does a really good job of recreating that clicking into the suit. So the Mark V would be another one of my favorites. I would have to say also the Mark III gunmetal. So the Mark III gunmetal is literally just a plastic Mark III piece, and its brother, the Mark IV Secret Project, it's just totally gray. It's not canon at all. It's not even mentioned in any of the movies. What I do find interesting was there's an interview that Robert Downey Jr. did a handful of years ago, where he was in his house that he shares with his wife Susan, and one of his homes, the one in California here, and on the shelf behind him was the Mark III gunmetal, and he picks it up, and he wasn't even familiar with which one it was. It was funny, and no disrespect to him, he researches these suits, and he has a lot of input into them, but he actually had one of those of all the ones that he could have had. That one was on display, and I just thought that was cool, and it kind of gives you a connection to the actor Robert Downey Jr., who brought Tony Stark to life, which really is what did the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If it wasn't, in my opinion, if it wasn't for the magic that was created in that first Iron Man movie, we wouldn't have any of this. Marvel movies have come and gone over the past decades, and it really wasn't until Jon Favreau and Robert Downey Jr. and some of the other actors that were directly involved in this creation of this Marvel Cinematic Universe came about. And we literally have Iron Man 1, in my opinion, to thank for that. So it's a good homage piece to that. And it's just a good looking piece. I can't get to all these figures right now because the room here is totally a mess. Another one would have to be the Mark 17 Heartbreaker. It's just a beefy looking figure. And it's funny that all these are Iron Man figures that I'm talking about in regards to my favorite pieces, when Iron Man isn't my guy. Iron Man's not my superhero. Iron Man's not the one that I relate to. Spider-Man is. But I really don't have necessarily a favorite Spider-Man figure. It's funny. My favorite ones are those Iron Man figures. And I was going to name five, and the fifth one would have to be the Mark 7 diecast. And it's a fragile piece. It'll piss you off every time you grab it because pieces will just start falling off of it. And it's when it first came out, I was extremely disappointed in it because I thought that had the colors wrong on it. The plastic pieces were very shiny and bright and very in your face. And the diecast is matte finished. And upon going back and reviewing the footage, of every time the Mark 7 was in film, it wasn't a shiny piece. It literally was a matte finished piece. So, and also when they did the Mark 7 plastic, they didn't actually make it screen accurate. The Mark 7 diecast is screen accurate. Now, don't get rid of your Mark 7 plastics. They still look great. They're a great figure nonetheless, but it's not as screen accurate as the diecast. So that's my top 5 figures. Not necessarily in order. Probably, I guess I would say, if actually thinking about it, probably the Midas would be my number 1. Probably. I don't know. It's hard to say. But it's like having multiple kids. Which child do you love the most? Who's your favorite kid? You love them all the same. One may be making you angry at the moment, and you may not be as happy with them as you would the others, but you're going to love all your children the same, for the most part, right? For the most part. Yeah, we never sell. Yeah, absolutely right, CBS Sci-Fi. It's like I joke, my daughter will get these, and she will happily sell them. She will happily sell them. That's how it'll be. I've had to sell them on occasion when my first wife had her when my wife first had her cardiac arrest. The bills started summing up real quickly, and I had to sell a couple of pieces. And I promised you guys that when I did that I would get them back, and I did. I made sure to repurchase the pieces that I sold, and the pieces that I sold back then was the Mark 47, my Hella, and my Mark 3 gunmetal. And I've reclaimed each of those pieces. So, fortunately, the Mark 47 was re-released, so I was able to buy that at a reasonable price. The Mark 3 Mark 3 gunmetal, of course, will never be re-released. So I had to spend the couple $1,000s on that. And yeah, that's a couple $1,000 piece. Figure cost originally like maybe $120. It's worth a couple $1,000s. And Hella, same thing. I think Hella, when she was new, was $220, and I sold her for $800, and I had to buy her right back for $800. So, I want some nice average size. Find somebody, say like Nicolas Cage or a Bruce Wayne or a Peter Parker or a Harvey Dent or Tom Hardy. I'd like a few find some that can interchange, but looks nice. Robert, you know what? When you find out what the normal size male bodies are, let me know. I've only built, I think, one male Fison, and that was Captain America. And I really need to find some Spider-Man size bodies for fact, because Spidey and Captain America aren't the same size, right? So let me know what you find out, Robert. Hot Toys are what I wanted Star Wars figures to be when I was. Yeah, right? Absolutely. Okay. So here it is. It's funny. I was buying all of those Star Wars figures. So my grandmother, she was great. Every year, and now mind you, these are people who didn't have a lot of money back then, right? So every year on our birthday, we would get a gift that was equivalent to $1 per age that we were. So when you turn 10, you could ask I could ask my grandmother for a gift that cost $10, and that was a lot of money to them. And I remember standing in JCPenney's with my grandmother, and here it is, the original release of the Kenner figures that you would buy, and I think it was $12 or something to that effect, and you would purchase the figures, and the figures weren't even out yet. Okay, so you paid $12 and you got 12 figures. Think about that for a second. They would mail them to you as they would come released, and all you got was this backdrop showing the 12 figures that would come about. I couldn't convince my grandmother to buy me that, and that's fine. But that's literally where my life of collecting those figures came about. So, needless to say, as they started coming out, I was buying them up myself. So, uh, I had the original Jawas with the plastic capes. Hated it. I was so happy when they came out with that cloth case. A cape. I hated that plastic cape. Hated it. Hated it. I'm pretty sure I took that cape off and threw it away. As a matter of fact, I hated the way that they did the lightsaber figures, where the lightsabers were two thicknesses, and when you would retract it into his arm, there still was this piece coming off. I literally would cut those off and just make a short saber that was, only the length of the arm there, and so you know I bought them all. You had paper covered R2D2, and just it was fun. But yeah, I'm with you. If they looked like this, it would have been a different story. I had GI Joe dolls when I was a little kid, and I think I had two of them, and I had a Steve Austin Bionic Man, which you could look through his eye, and I had Stretch Armstrong also. But the Star Wars ones got the most play. I'd be out in the backyard just having a blast, digging trenches. Oh, jeez. My goodness. Constant K sure is. I love Blade Runner. One of my absolute all time best favorite franchises. We got Constant K and Joy here. Sure enough. I'm not too pleased with the head sculpt on this, but there's no question about who that is as you see him. Obviously, you were able to pick him out. And Joy is Joy right next to him. And I've got Joy in the demo mode too. Let's see if I can reach her. And here's, you look like a good Joe. Joy. Love Blade Runner. Love, 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 love Blade Runner. The whole concept and story of Blade Runner is just remarkable to me. Ridley Scott created a beautiful telling of Philip K. Dick's story to Android's Dream of Electric Sheep. Of course, there was a sequel, 2049, and now Black Orchid is an animated Blade Runner story that's on Crunchyroll or Adult Swim. Check it out. So I'd like to get a nice Ryan Gosling head because this doesn't look very much like Ryan Gosling. Nice. Nice. A Blade Runner City would be beautiful. Hello, Karen Rose. How are you doing? Yes, it is. Siri is a Blade Runner fan. You can never go wrong with Blade Runner. Amen, Damon. Absolutely. I managed to snag another Mark 7. Nice. So now I can do that darn flight pod diecast version. Speaking of which, how's the custom flight pod coming along? It ain't. It's still in the bag. Um, it's still in the bag. So I don't even know if I have a flight pod even on display right now because of that. So, so in case you don't realize, when they redid the Mark 7 into a diecast, they made the flight pod, which, if you remember from Avengers, when Loki was up there battling him, Tony shows up in his Mark 6, and he lands on the gantry, which at this point was the base. It came up over him, was moving the pieces. The 1/9 scale King Arts gantry is perfect sized for that, by the way. It truly is a 1/6 scale, even though they claim it's 1/9. He's walking off that, and he's putting the bracelets on, telling Jarvis to get the Mark 7 ready. And Jarvis is telling him it's not ready, doesn't matter. He's talking smack to Loki, who's talking smack back to him. And Loki's trying to change his heart. and keeps tapping into the arc reactor in his chest. And uh, Loki then throws him out the window of Avengers Tower, which at that point was Stark Tower. It wasn't Avengers Tower, it was Stark Tower. And as he's falling, the Mark 7 comes at him in this pod and attaches to the bracelets on his wrist and assembles an entire suit. And right before he crashes into the ground, the suit assembles. He's able to fly back up. And he goes, "No, by the way, there's one other person you pissed off, and his name is Phil." And that's when he shoots Loki and regains the high ground more or less in a brand new Mark 7 suit. So we'd wanted a pod. I don't remember if there were third-party companies that ever made a pod, but if there was nothing that was of any real news to speak of. So with the Mark 7 diecast, you had the option of creating a pod, which is pretty close to how it was displayed in the movie. It's not an exact replica, but darn close to it. Here's the bad thing about that. Now, $450 is what a Mark 7 diecast costs, if I remember correctly. And if you are displaying it as a pod, that's how you end up displaying it. You don't get the pod in addition to the Mark 7 diecast. You literally just assemble a Mark 7 diecast, put it together as a pod, and for $450 you have a flight pod. And that just ate me up. So one of you, and I don't remember who it was, had showed me that they had taken someone had taken a $10 Iron Man figure. I don't even remember who made these, that you could pick up in a local drugstore or toy store or Walmart, and had put the pod pieces onto it. And it looks great. So I went and found the one Iron Man that I thought would be perfect for that, put the pieces onto it, and it looks beautiful. Problem is, it's too skinny, so you have to separate the body and fill it with something to give it the bulk of what the suit is. So I've never been pleased with any filler or any manner of prying that open and keeping it open to put it into a permanent display. So it's in the bag of unfinished projects. So I think probably the best way to do that, literally, would be with a piece of metal, tin, or something along that line that's easily cut in a shape, and then just put in there sideways, like as if you're building a frame on an airplane. And I think that's probably what I need to do, is to find a piece of tin that I can cut into shape and stick inside that body to keep it open. It's going to be soft enough that it can be cut into shape with some tin snips, but strong enough that it should hold up the body apart to be able to put the other pieces onto it. And then, of course, I bought the paint to be able to do that. Speaking of paint, on the pink panties, I've got 2 or 3 pieces that have turned pink. And if you ever have pink panty problems on your collectibles, this TS74 paint is what you use to paint the pieces again. You don't strip the paint off. Don't strip the paint off of your Iron Man figures when they turn pink. The hands and the panties are, for the most part, what happens to these Iron Man figures. When we're talking about the originals, 1, 2, 3, 4, well, not 2, but 1, 3, not 1 either. So 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't remember if it happened to the 7 or not. So you would literally just, the panties are glued onto the body, so you would just pull them off the legs and put them on a stick or something and just paint with this. You don't need to strip it, because you still want that silver that's underneath there, and just lightly coat it with this, and that'll fix it. So that's how you take care of that problem. But yeah, I do plan on getting that. Does my spreadsheet have information on the Phison S18? It does. Or the Suntan. I have a Final Fantasy X unit coming, and that, or the S10D are the recommended bodies. Let me tell you what the difference between them are, the 18 and the 10. So the S10D is a pale, large breast, interchangeable feet. The dimensions that I calculated of her figure are 28 bust, double D 2436. Um, the S10 and the S12, if I remember correctly, are more or less the same piece. The S10 being the pale and the S12 being the suntan. The physique is more close to normal female. She has nipples on her breasts, but she has no vagina. So just a smooth portion down there, very much like Barbie doll. The other one you said was the 18, right? So the S18 is pale, medium breast. So the S10 is a large breast, S18 is a medium breast. The S18 has the dimensions on her are 32B 2436. And it's a slender body with narrow shoulders. So evidently the shoulders are more narrow than the S10, according to my notes. It's more in line with the SO1A. So the S18 is evidently the same figure as SO1A, which would have been their first FISA figure. And it's interchangeable feet. And there is a vagina on the S18, if that's important to you. So there's a difference between your 10 and the 18. I hope that helps you make a decision as to which of those to get for your figure. Large breasts, small breasts. Let's see. Sam Raimi Spidey was pretty good, plus X-Men. Now keep in mind, Sam Raimi's still in charge of Spider-Man. He never released the control over that. So it was through his blessings that Tom Holland made it into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that's because Sony's not stupid. You know what I mean? They're looking at what Kevin Feige and the group are doing, making money hand over fist with Marvel, and they're like, yeah, let's go ahead and let you borrow our Spider-Man and see how much money can be made. And then what was really interesting was when Disney and Sony started trying to tell each other who was the bigger and badder person. I don't know who actually won in that battle. At one point, it looked like we were going to lose because Sony's like, fine, we're going to take our toys and go home, and you can't play with our Spider-Man anymore. And Disney was trying to strong arm Sony. So I don't know how that negotiation actually ended as to who feels they got the better end of the stick. But the good thing is that we as fans still have Tom Holland in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it looks like it's going to get really good with them bringing over Venom and Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. Gosh, it'd be great if they brought Kirsten Dunst, Topher Grace. You know, we've seen Doc Ock. We've heard from Jamie Foxx that he's back. So it'd be nice to see exactly who all makes it in. It'd be really nice to see who all makes it in. James Franco, bring them all. You know what I mean? William Dafoe. Could you imagine? Let's have them all. Let's just bring it. Let's just merge the whole thing together. Go for it, for real. I would love to see that happen. I would love to see that happen for fact. Gosh, who was the actress that played Gwen in the Andrew Garfield storyline? So much can be done at this point, for real. Yes, I have Joy, and I love my Joy. I've been looking for a seamless foot Joy, and I don't think Fison makes that. But I've got my eyes open trying to find one. But that's the plan, is to have a Joy with seamless feet. Probably going to go with the S18 as Yuna. It was not a large bust figure. And if you need even smaller breasts, the um, Jow dolls have a smaller breast than the medium breast that Bison makes. So Jow fills in the blanks, more or less. So it's almost you can go with a small breast Jow, medium breast Bison, medium breast Jow, large breast Bison, then a large breast Jow. And then, of course, Bison, for the most part, has only two skin tones. And that's not true because they specialize figures who have alternate skin tones in regards to that. But for the most part, you're getting either a pale or a suntan. And Jow has, I think, 5 or 7 different skin tones. So you can do a lot better job matching up head sculpts to bodies in Jow dolls as well. So something else to look into is in regards to that. Mitch, nothing good. Oh no. Oh no. Sam Raimi's Spidey was pretty good. So is X-Men franchise. I agree with you, Robert. I do. Here's the problem with both of those. They rebooted them. You know what I mean? When Tobey Maguire became Spider-Man, oh my God. That was probably the most joyous moment. Well, not the most. Probably one of the most joyous moments of my life. I was so pleased to see Spidey swinging through the streets of New York. He was actually swinging through Cleveland, Ohio, by the way, is where they filmed that at. But the CGI, when you look at it by today's standards, wasn't very believable. But when we were watching that back in 2000, whenever it came out, it was very believable that Spidey was swinging through the city. And it was amazing. And they did a great first episode, first movie. The only problem I had with it was the webbing was organically generated instead of with a web shooter. So I had a small problem with that. But it's what separated him from the mainline 616 Spider-Man. So we knew then that Tobey wasn't the real Spider-Man. It was obviously an alternate universe. So that was the only problem I had, was that it was organic fluid. Because I felt that he wouldn't have the weakness of being out of fluid. But then, of course, we realized, as we were told, he has to be in the right state of mind in order to be able to generate the fluid. So that was a great story. Spider-Man 2 was a great story. And then with Spider-Man 3, they screwed it up. Totally screwed it up. They had every intention of making 5 movies. There were supposed to be 5 movies. If you remember, Bruce Campbell was in the first 3 movies. He was supposed to be Mysterio. They were going to do a whole Sinister Six line. Venom was going to be created as movies from that, with him going to San Francisco with being the Life Foundation. But they totally screwed it up with Spider-Man 3 so badly, they decided to do a reboot and enter Andrew Garfield. And I never gave Andrew much love. I didn't much care for the Amazing Spider-Man stories of Andrew Garfield's first 2 movies, but same thing. It was supposed to be more than 2 movies, and it was only 2 because it just wasn't working. So yeah, the Tobey Maguire movies are great. A lot of people don't care for Tobey Maguire. I thought the Tobey Maguire movies were great. I thought the third movie was terribly done. Could have been done so much better. Had nothing to do with the actors. It had to do with the directors commanding the actors and not making them produce what was needed at the time. X-Men, same thing. Patrick Stewart, X-Men, Hugh Jackman, Wolverine. That entire X-Men story was great. And then they started killing off the X-Men. They started getting stupid. They had to do the reboot with McAfee becoming the new professor and going backwards in time and trying to do a first class, etc., and destroyed the timeline of the entire X-Men and made X-Men so confusing. You can't even keep track with who is whom and when is where and what is going on. And they made the X-Men disposable. You know, they shouldn't be disposable. And so that's ridiculous. So with that being said, when Iron Man won the Marvels, and don't forget the Hulk, okay? Edward Norton's Hulk, which is to some degree considered canon, but also not. And Ang Lee's Hulk as well. You know, so they had these soft starts and they couldn't continue on with the story from there because it just wasn't solid. when John Favreau and Robert Downey Jr. and all those laid the foundation of Iron Man 1 and Captain America, the first Avenger, came out. That's what made it solid. They didn't reboot from that moment. So that's where Square One was started, and every story came from that. And that's when Sony is like, these guys know what they're doing. Let's get on board with that. And that's how Tom Holland came into being with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because Sony 100% owns Spider-Man and the affiliated villains with Spider-Man. So with the crossing over or the mishmash of the Disney-held properties, which now they own the Fox-held properties, which are also Deadpool and X-Men, we start to get a nice Marvel mesh. And Marvel was broke up in the, I think it was the 90s, and they sold off all the pieces. So different movie houses and companies own different pieces of Marvel characters, and sometimes there would be a crossover. For instance, Quicksilver was owned by not only Fox but Universal. Is that who it was? Paramount, who held the first Iron Man. They owned Quicksilver, and so what's nice with the Fox acquisition by Disney in the Scarlet Vision, WandaVision television series. If you remember, Pietro was killed in Age of Ultron. It's her twin brother is the story, and which is a different story than Quicksilver in the X-Men. And so it was quite interesting and funny when she recast her brother, and we get the X-Men Quicksilver. So now he's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. First of the X-Men of that genre to merge into that. So it's going to be nice to see how that continues to go in regards to the merging and cross world carryovers of that. I love the whole story of the X-Men. X-Men have been very popular for many years. And to not give them the respect that they deserved was just a crying shame. It's like Michael Bay killing Transformers. One of the things that they'll tell a creator is, or an artist or a director, if you can't kill your character, you don't have any love for him. And I disagree with that. As we've talked before, in the telling of a story, everything has to come full circle. So your hero is here. He is given a quest. The quest has dire consequences. He dies or is beaten to defeat, but then he has to rise out of the ashes and overtake the power or the problem or solve the situation and come back up to top. That's how every successful story is taught. So whenever they would say, if you can't kill your character, you have no love for them, they didn't mean kill and toss out the window. They mean if you can't put them through so much hell that they lose their life or that they give up and reach absolute desperation and then have to find that motivation to come out of it, you have no love for your character. So when these creators start killing off their creations or the franchises that they've been entrusted with, now I've got a huge problem with that. You know what I mean? When Star Trek was huge, and I say huge because there was a time in the 80s and 90s when you had on television Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and Star Trek Voyager. On TV, every week, you'd have 3 episodes, 3 different franchises, and movies in the theater of Star Trek. That would have to be, in my opinion, the height of the Star Trek universe. So anybody could write a Star Trek story and submit it to the corporations that held the franchises. And their stipulation was no matter what dilemma that you put these characters in, no matter how much hell or how much death or how much destruction you put them in, at the end of your story, everything had to be back to where it started in regards to your main characters. So you could kill off Timmy in engineering, or your typical red shirt security guard, but you couldn't kill off the main characters. You couldn't destroy the Enterprise. All right. So that was their only rule for writing stories on Star Trek. If you wanted to submit us a story to Star Trek, they said, great, send us your submissions. We'll look at them, see if we can't make it into a television show or a book or something along that line. And this is the only rules. The main characters have to be the main characters at the end of your story. You're not allowed to kill Kirk. You're not allowed to kill Picard. Not allowed to kill Data. Not allowed to kill, Janeway or any of that in your story. You can kill them. You can certainly turn them into a slug. You can disassemble them and make them stretched across time immortal. But at the end of the show, they got to be back to where they were. And that's how you tell a story. So if you're killing your characters and leaving them dead, no, you're disrespecting the franchise, you're disrespecting the story, and you're disrespecting your characters. It's good to put your characters through hell, but it's good to have them find that strength, find that energy, find that reason to live and to excel, to be better. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness meant the pursuit of inner development to make yourselves more perfect. When the founding fathers created the Constitution, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and they are endowed by the Creator certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. People forgot that the pursuit of happiness meant inner building, inner reflection, and bettering yourself as a human being, not going after a Starbucks coffee. That's your pursuit of happiness. That is not the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness is that continual drudgery or treading or ascension into making yourself a better person. That's your right. You have the right to better yourself. Not to go get your Starbucks coffee. That's not the pursuit of happiness. Hate to tell you. Emma Stone played Gwen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I would like to see Gwen back. And hell, maybe they could talk her into doing a Spider-Gwen, right? Or a Gwenpool. Imagine that for a minute. I love seeing Goblin William Dafoe. Yes. Is he coming back? Have we heard that? I've seen a lot of footage with Doc Ock, and I know Jamie Foxx said he's coming back, and Jamie said he's not blue this time. But I haven't heard if William Dafoe's coming back. I haven't heard if James Franco's coming back. I hope they all do. I really do. I really hope they all do. And I'm hoping for maybe 2 or 3 movies along this whole line. Nicholas Hammond never gets any love. Remember him? He was our 1970. I don't even remember that television show. I don't. How is that even possible? I don't even remember those. Reb Brown and Nicholas Hammond. I do not even remember those shows. TV Thor Daredevil. Yeah, X-Men got confusing. Days of Future Past was at its peak, and then they ruined it again. I never liked Logan. There was nothing old man Logan about it, and everyone said it was. Logan was basically X-Men 3 all over again, but told better, yeah. I'm wondering how Moon Knight... Oh, yeah. Really hated how Quicksilver was underplayed in WandaVision. I really wish he exists in that world. I think he is. I don't think that they killed him. I think he's going to be here. I think it was just an introduction of him in this. One of the things that they said was when they started making the television shows, and if I remember correctly, and maybe I'm wrong, but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was the first one of the TV line Marvel stories. Their opinion at that time was that the TV shows would acknowledge and follow what happened in the movies, but the movies wouldn't necessarily follow in line with what was happening in the TV shows. So the TV shows had to acknowledge and totally obey what was put on the big screen. But the movies didn't have to acknowledge or even follow anything that happened in the TV series. Well, that's changed. And specifically with WandaVision, they've made sure to announce to everybody that the actions that are taking place in WandaVision with Scarlet Witch and Vision directly are influencing the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. So, all the more reason to see these shows if you have not seen them, because now the television shows are more or less pre-stories to the movies. Now, I can't imagine for 1 second that they would make it to such a degree that if you didn't see the television show, they're going to just ostracize you and not explain to you what's going on in the movie and just make it out like as if, hey, you didn't watch WandaVision, we're not going to tell you what happened. I still think there's going to be some type of a recap or some type of a mention or an explanation as to what's going on in the movie that would have taken place in the television show. But the television show obviously is going to be a greater storyline for that. So everything that's happening in the television shows now, WandaVision, um, Hawkeye, and God help me out here, Winter Soldier and Falcon, um, Hawkeye, of course. Now all of these Disney slash Marvel television shows are directly influencing the movies. So all the more reason to catch up on them or watch. And the price for Disney is relatively inexpensive. And again, Disney's not giving me anything for free for me to promote their channel, but it's well worth picking up. If you're not watching the series, is get them, binge watch it, cancel it, pick it back up again in 6 months, however you want to do it. If you don't have, if whatever it is, $13 I think is what the subscription is now. Buy it for a month, binge watch the hell out of all the shows, and then cancel the subscription. Do that. Do yourself that at least. Spend $13 on yourself. Skip Starbucks for 2 visits to be able to watch the shows on Disney. You know what I mean? Yeah, 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 yeah. I know what you're saying, Robert. I got you. You can see Nicholas Hammond Spider-Man on YouTube. Oh hell! It came out about the same time with the Japanese. Oh my goodness! And the Power Rangers. Wow. Captain America on YouTube. Oh right, right. Is the Mandalorian returning also, or is just going to be now Boba Fett? Because December, that's when it was supposed to be. God, I couldn't believe I couldn't. I hated that when you end up watching the series and it's over and you got to wait an entire year. Thank God that year has gone by so quickly. So now we're back to December, where I know the Book of Boba Fett's coming out. It was really nice how it ended at the end of the Mandalorian, where we see him sitting on Jabba's throne, if you will, in Tatooine. So it'd be really interesting to see how that goes. And I don't know, is the Mandalorian continuing on with another season on that? Because I've enjoyed the Mandalorian too. I really enjoyed that also. There you go. Yeah, cancel it, get it later. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't watch a lot of TV as it is, so I'm probably paying for a lot of stuff that I don't even take advantage of. So, but get it, binge watch it, cancel it, pick it back up again when the next one comes out. Yeah. I've not seen them remove any of these shows. You know what I mean? I've not, unlike Netflix, that this month this show will be on there, and next month they won't be. End up losing out on them. I've not seen Disney remove any shows yet. I'm not saying that they won't, or maybe that they haven't, but I've not noticed. Funny, I didn't get to that unboxing, did I? I'll be able to have to do that next week. Jake, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You have a great time. I've kept you guys for 2 hours, and I love you, and I don't like keeping you past that. And I love every one of you. I really appreciate you spending your Saturdays with me, and we'll get to this. It's the Iron Scavenger. It's Michael Keaton's Vulture from Jazz Inc. In case you didn't know what I was opening up there. Um, so that's what's coming next week. For fact, we'll open that up. I thought I'd get it to it, and I started talking, and my rambling sometimes takes over, as you know. Chucky, oh, I heard it was good. I heard it was good. So, thank you very much, all of you, for tuning in. I love every one of you. Um, I do have a P.O. box if you want to send me stuff. Should be listed in the bottom here. Um, Send me anything you want. Send me artwork. Send me letters. Send me a postcard. Or not. And if you want to contribute to the channel, I have a Patreon account. www.patreon.com/Siri Emerald. SIRIEMERALD. We've got nothing to promise you by joining, but it's just a nice way to throw $1 my way if you enjoy what we're doing. And with that, we will sign out. And let's hope that maybe I can get with the program. Get these detoffs built. And clean this room up. See y'all later, man. Love y'all. Peace.